Do you want to talk about Yamaha, Dennis?
No, I was in a good mood. So no.
Because I know Kev doesn't want to talk about Yamaha. I mean, can we just do
I mean,
like 90
let me just say,
seconds?
I'm glad that Vinales was able to come from where he was to right behind. I think he finished fifth, ahead of Quartararo,
No,
just behind, right?
Nope.
Nakagami was fifth.
All
Yep.
right, okay, I'm sorry.
I believe
Oh yeah, shout
I
out to
believe that
Nakagami.
is I believe that is Taka's best finish ever in MotoGP.
Yep.
Yeah, that
It's
was
the
awesome.
best finish of a Japanese rider since like when they posted. It was like a crazy since like Nakano. Like,
It was like a wet Valencia race, I think.
Yeah, it was
he
crazy.
podiumed,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
on the wild card rod in the M1.
Yeah, but it was like the
The wild card on the M1 was not Nakasuga.
at
Was it
Valencia.
Nakasuga?
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, well that was like the final year or that was the one last shot for a Japanese rider to get on the podium across all classes, and it was the wild card rider that did it. And I don't think there haven't really been any since, except for in Moto3 now with what's his face doing well.
Right. I mean,
yeah, Taka, that was a solid ride from Taka. It seems like the 2018 RCV is doing a little bit better than Cal's 2019. Cal didn't exactly have a great time in that race. But sorry, we were gonna go over to Yamaha there. Kev, what were you saying?
it's just like it's like the same story. Like they're not doing anything to make it better. Like makes me think of Ducati in that time period. Like they're just not. They're running in circles. It's the same thing every time. And this is the time where I posted some memes about Valentino like getting 18th, like from that show Chernobyl, which is an amazing show and you should totally watch it. But like, like. The
18th in
Yamaha
qualifying, by the way, just to
18th
clarify.
in qualifying. Everyone's like, "Oh, he's a Sunday racer. He's gonna do great."
Not from
and
that
I'm thinking
far
to myself,
back.
I was thinking to myself, I don't think so. Not this time. This might be the beginning of the end. I mean, I said it a while ago, but I think like that's why I don't really want to get all Debbie Downer on it. But like, the dream is over, man. Because Yamaha ain't coming back. They got to close too big of a gap, and it's kind of I'm just glad Petrucci won, man, because like someone posted the Facebook group like was yesterday the first day or was today, Monday, the first day that no one said Rossi's name in Italy.
Ooh.
There was nothing to talk
Wow.
about for him, and it was an Italian named Petrucci that won the race on a Ducati.
The one of the other guys I watched the race with was like, I really wouldn't be unhappy if Rossi retired after this year. Like, just hang it up, man. And I think that's this round might be the turning point for that public perception.
Yes.
There just might be people realizing like, like the pressure got to him of the home round, the bike wasn't there. Like, and to your point, Kev, Yamaha's not going to turn around that fast. The main thing that they struggled with at Mugello is the motor. And it seems like they've been working on this for 3-4 years, right? It's not it's not like a lack of horsepower is a new problem in 2019. No, we knew about it in 2016 that they were down on power.
They've been chasing the dragon for a long time. And one thing I can tell you is that you start chasing the dragon, you do not, and it gets harder and harder, you are not finding better heroin. You're finding worse heroin. It's getting worse, not better. You start chasing that dragon, and it's a hell of a lot worse. And I think that they're running in circles while they're getting surpassed. If you're standing still, you're moving backwards in this era. And the amount they need an overhaul. I mean, you saw what Ducati had to do to reinvent themselves. Literally, they had to reinvent themselves from the ground up. Racing department overhaul to get them to this point with riders. They basically said like, y'all are the workhorses for a while. You know what I mean? Like Dovi signed knowing that. And I just, Valentino is not doing that at 38 years old. And Maverick Vinales, I think, is probably going, well, how the hell do I get out of here?
Yeah, they're not gonna because of frozen engine development, right? There's a risk for next year, right? They can't just produce a new motor today, race it for the rest of the season, make a little power there, and then do it again. They're going to make a little bit more power in the off season. Ducati will probably do exactly the same, and Yamaha will be further behind because of it, because Ducati seems to be better at making power than anyone else on the grid. It's absurd.
Right.
Like, I really thought that whole principle of diminishing returns was going to slow the Ducati down at some point.
Nope.
But it didn't at all. Even the Honda. Like, I mean, Honda classically is a very good engine company. But, God, for them to pull more horsepower out of these things year after year after year. Like, we got more fuel. We got 1,000 cc's. They went to shittier electronics. And what do? More horsepower.
Right.
They have so much horsepower. They leave the winglets on at Mugello because they don't care about the extra drag. Like, I feel like if they were allowed the same aerodynamic rules that we had last year, where they could cut the winglets off like on the inside and, you know, kind of skirt that whole limitation, that they wouldn't have broken the top speed record by 1 kilometer per hour. It would have been by 6 or 7. Right. It would have been insane. And then we would have more conversations about them jumping and needing the crest to be filed down at Mugello, which is a whole nother point that we might get to. Yamaha, they are not taking advantage of diminishing returns for Ducati and Honda. They're not making a more powerful bike that's noticeable. They don't even have a handle on the electronics yet. So if they did, right. I mean, to their credit, I guess, in quotation marks, if they did produce a more powerful motor this year, they probably would be going slower because they don't have their electronics sorted because they have rear traction issues. So, I mean, there were a couple times even seeing Danilo spin the tire out of the rear corner and fail miserably getting that drive. I was actually worried when he led out of the final corner because there were a couple times midway through the race where he got on the throttle and just got passed before the stripe, like easily. And I'm like, I prayed, please, Danilo, don't screw it up. Don't screw it up. Don't spin the tire. Don't spin the tire.
Learn from this.
Yeah, and thankfully he did. But the Yamahas, they've got 1 lap pace with Quartararo, and that's all they have.
Mm-hmm. Literally,
with the older
that's all
bike.
they have.
Yeah, with the older bike.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Rossi is like begging once again, like, give me the frame from last year, like he did when Zarco was doing well. Like, how is that not a mind fuck for both the factory Yamaha riders when Quartararo is able to put these amazing qualifying performances in?
Right. Some guy who's, you know, there was a lot of questions about whether he should have even been brought up. You know what I mean? But I just see, when I see Yamaha, I see like they got one young kid who's probably too dumb to know what he's looking for, and he can put it in fast on 1 lap in qualifying. And then they got a guy who's, you know, reaction times are aging and his desire to take risk is aging and all that stuff. And then I don't like to talk about the Yamaha that much because it's like there's nothing good to talk about. There's the thing we've all been waiting for that we all knew was going to happen eventually, and you're like, ugh.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I'm just waiting for a full overhaul of their racing program. I got nothing else for Yamaha, and I'm a Yamaha guy, but I got nothing else to justify what's going on with them.
Well, so I feel like you two did ask me that like 2 weeks ago, that have they remodeled their race team? Are they going to? And
they added the European test team and all that stuff, but not in the way that Ducati did.
Right.
Well, Ducati had to come from, 2 years ago, I would say that Ducati had to come from a long way back, right? Like, the organization hadn't won a thing since Casey Stoner was there. They were down in the dumps. Like, Yamaha is getting worse because they're standing still, like we've already said. But if you looked at like last year,
Maverick won a race last year.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but one.
But my
race.
point is, like, is Yamaha really gonna wait to be that far back before they do something?
Well, they have done things, right? The team manager is different this year, if I'm not mistaken. They did the European test team. Thankfully, and they have Folger riding the bike. What else have they done? Actually, that's about it. What else can they do? Right? They're not going to find another Gigi Dall'Igna. Can they poach electronics engineers from Magneti Marelli, from Honda, from Ducati? Maybe
they're old engineers back from Honda.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. And that's probably what needs to happen, right? Like, obviously Ducati and Honda have a handle on high horsepower, good traction. Like
Yeah.
they need when contract time for those guys comes around, they need to make a really high dollar offer and poach them back to Yamaha. Take all that money that they shouldn't be spending on their riders, and
All that sweet energy drink money.
maybe Petronas will give them a little bit extra
Yeah.
to hire some new electronics engineers.